and Rescue panel. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for accommodating me at the pre-agenda. I had to chair a meeting of Clyde Plan, which for 30 years has been the overarching spatial planning committee for the West of Scotland. It was closing that day and is folding into the Glasgow City region. And I had the job to chair its final meeting, which meant I had to get to Glasgow. And thank you, Provost, for standing in for the meeting at 10 and for those who came to the meeting at 9. Thank you very much, everybody. This meeting has been held remotely and also in person and will be filmed and recorded for subsequent broadcasts available through the Council's website. The Integration Joint Board, have we got the right one here? Wrong one, thank you. The Council is the data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil a public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with Council published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that should follow the Council's established meeting protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who've also received invites to the meeting. Do we have any apologies or substitutions?
We have an apology from Councillor Laura. We'll now move to a roll call. Can the following members please indicate if they are present at the meeting either in person or remotely? Councillor Brennan.
Present remotely.
Councillor Cassidy.
Present chamber.
Councillor Clockerty.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Crowther.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Daisley.
Present remotely.
Councillor Hellier.
Present in chamber.
August Mackenzie.
The chamber.
Councillor Reynolds.
Present remotely.
Councillor Quinn.
Present remotely.
Councillor Wilson.
Present in the chamber?
Are there any declarations of interest?
No. No declarations of interest. We'll move on to performance management. Agenda item number 2, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Spotlight Report on an implied and deliberate fire setting. Kevin?
Good afternoon, committee. If I could just give a wee bit of background today as to why we have this report in place of our normal performance report. We are in a new data gathering system and business intelligence programme, which does not result in us having the data until the end of the quarter. So with this meeting being in March, we will not have the data required until the 1st of April effectively. So we did not have the performance information for you this time around. As always, if there's anything critical that we would like to update the committee on, we would do so, but we have nothing of concern at this time. As per the committee's request, Board has put together a thorough report in terms of deliberate fire setting within Inverclyde, which I hope everyone has had a chance to have a look at. And I'll pass over to Rod now to cover that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
Thank you, good afternoon, everybody. As Kevin said, we'll do a Scotland report and the request the committee on the fire setting across Inverclyde. I'm not going through it line by line. I'm hoping everybody's had a chance to read it, but I will pick out some of the highlights from the report. So across Scotland, each year, SFRS attends between 10,000 and 15,000 deliberate fires with associated impacts on communities, businesses, and the environment. This equates to roughly 55% of all fires attended by SFRS each year. In Inverclyde to date for 24-25, there have been 257 deliberate fires. These figures compare favourably when looking at the total for deliberate fire incidents across all of the local authority areas in the west of Scotland. The highest obviously being City of Glasgow, as you can see on the table, and the lowest being Argyll and Bute. The chart showing the trend in deliberate fire setting incidents across Inverclyde shows that over the last 5 years, the numbers have been coming down with occasional spikes in some quarters, principally within Q1 quarter one. But the overall trend is downward. Those fluctuations can be attributed to a number of influencing factors. This can include the time of year that we're looking at, the associated weather that time of the year, and also other forms of antisocial behaviour. For example, fly tipping can impact on the amount of deliberate fire setting that we are attending. The totals for the last 5 years started at 449 in 2019-20 and reached a high of 553 in 2020-21. With this year, with the figures to date, this is the lowest number of deliberate fires we have recorded in Inverclyde, and we were currently sitting at 237. As we've seen in the table, there's no ward within Inverclyde that's immune to deliberate fire setting, but it is more prevalent in some wards than in others. Most deliberate fire setting in Inverclyde involves outdoor fires, with the residual being those involving buildings and vehicles. So, deliberate fire setting, as was stated, is a core SFRS prevention and protection objective, and that exists for several reasons. It's a key performance indicator for us as a service within our performance management framework, and it's one of those performance measures that we report to yourselves here on the panel. But there's also the fact that by targeting our education and engagement to address deliberate fire setting, it provides many benefits, including demand reduction for ourselves and our partners, financial savings for ourselves and our partners because of demand reduction, improve community safety and well-being across the communities in Inverclyde. The next section goes on to cover in some detail what we do in terms of our operational crews, our community action team and our fire safety enforcement officers in regards to the activities undertaken to reduce deliberate fire setting across Inverclyde. I'm not going into that in great detail other than to touch on the fact that, as is stated in one of the later paragraphs, deliberate fire setting is not something that SFRS can tackle on our own. It requires that partnership working, and that we have good working relationships with our partners across Inverclyde, including Inverclyde Council and Police Scotland, as well as others, and particularly through the Inverclyde Hub, where we have the opportunity to share information and intelligence across the partners. It can help to identify any issues around deliberate fire setting, but also provides other opportunities for us to be able to identify persons at risk so that we can take the necessary preventative activities to make them safer. And this ultimately improves the safety of our firefighters, our partners and our communities across Inverclyde. I'm happy to take any comments or questions on the report.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions? Councillor Crowther.
Thank you, Convener. I noticed that recently there have been two large wildfires, one outside Inverness, one in Western Bartonshire. Now, I doubt very much whether they would come under the Wildlife Management and Muirburn Scotland Act, i.e. these fires are controlled by landowners. Do you have any assistance from the landowners locally when they are setting controlled fires so that you would not be called out? In other words, if I was to say, what is controlled and what is deliberate fires?
Thank you, Councillor. So in terms of local landowners who are doing controlled burns within the legislation that allows them to do so, they will very often notify our control room, so we will prior knowledge that there's a burn within that area, and that will then allow our control room to make a determination as to what attendance we would make for that. So if we know there's a controlled burn in a specific location and we receive a 999 call to that location, we will probably send a signal appliance on what we call an examination to go out and investigate, is it just a controlled burn or is it something else? They won't ignore the call because we know there's a controlled burn there, just in case it turns out to be something completely different, so we will always investigate it. In terms of the deliberate fire setting, those would sit within it, even though they have technically been deliberately set, but the landowner's doing that for a reason, and if it was to get out of control, then that's deemed to be accidental. It's then forced control of the control burn, as opposed to the fire was deliberately set for a malicious or antisocial reason.
Okay, that's fair. That's fine, thank you.
It's actually within Ward 1, up in the hills behind Kilmacombe, and also a bit in Ward 2 behind Inverkip. You still see evidence of butts from the days that there was grouse shooting going on. In fact, above Kilmacombe, there's even a railway line, small railway line that used to take the shooters out to where the grouse were getting beaten out in the moor. But there's no grouse left anymore round about. The raptors have got them all, I'm afraid. I'm sorry to say. Any other questions? No, thank you very much for that, gentlemen. We move on to agenda item number 3 under performance management. Police Scotland performance report. Chief Superintendent Craig.
Afternoon, everybody. Thank you, convener. I'll just present now the report which you should all have either in front of you or as an opportunity to read prior to this point. It covers the period to the end of December 2024. And I won't go over all of it, but a large number of positives in there which I will bring out, but equally some areas of concern which we will make our focus moving forward. In terms of incident demand, Inverclyde has seen an overall 5.7% decrease in crimes and offences, both by just over 4,100, while national crime rates have slightly increased. So the decline in Inverclyde is attributed to drops in various crime categories, including sexual crime, crimes of dishonesty, vandalism, and drug-related offences. There's been an increase in violent crime, however, and miscellaneous offences. And the detection rate for crimes in Inverclyde has improved, reaching 72%. So that's a positive because it surpasses the national average by some 6%. So overall, police incidents have decreased by 8.6% this year, totaling just over 13,800. However, there's an increase in specific areas such as missing people, domestic incidents, and public assistance requests. Police are specifically working with partners to try and address some of these challenges raised in those areas. In relation to violence, always one of concern across our communities, violent crime in Inverclyde has increased by almost 8% in this period, totaling 620 recorded crimes. Serious violence has risen by just over 5%, and common assault by nearly 8%. So obviously, more voluminous there in that category. The detection rate for violent crime stands at just under 70%. So again, that is higher than the previous year's rate and indeed the national rate as well. We know that vulnerable communities are disproportionately impacted by violence, with nearly 2/3 of our violent crime happening within our most socially deprived communities. So clearly that is highlighting the connection between violence and factors such as financial hardship and difficulties. In relation to disorder and antisocial behaviour, as you just heard from our colleagues, complaints about disorder in Inverclyde fell by 11%, with just over 1,500 reported incidents. So that's crimes in relation to vandalism and reckless behaviour, followed by 24%, and willful fire raising by 55% from the previous year. So again, just to reiterate the words of our colleague, this is a tribute to the work of various partnerships we have in place, including the Inverclyde Partnership Hub, focusing on tackling antisocial behaviour and disorder within our communities. In relation to hate crime, regrettably during the reported period, Inverclyde has recorded 114 hate crimes with a detection rate of almost 70%. Although new legislation and changes in recording methodology complicate comparisons with previous years, we're certainly doing our best for our victims in that regard. And I can confirm, as before, that race is the most targeted characteristic, accounting for almost 40% of these crimes. At the next scrutiny, I'm glad to say that we have secured one of our colleagues from our national Policing Together team to provide, as I said, spotlight in relation to hate crime, our national campaigns, and what that looks like and how that impacts on our communities here in Inverclyde. To provide some indication or breakdown further, the majority of these crimes are against our own officers or retail workers, and mostly in a one-off capacity. Moving on to sexual crime, in Inverclyde, 71 sexual crimes were recorded, marking a fall of over 30% compared to the previous year. Contact offences, including rape and sexual assault, saw a significant reduction. while non-contact crimes also fell. The detection rate for sexual crimes increased again, surpassing the previous years and the national average by some way, so extremely positive for us locally. In relation to our missing persons, we clearly take every report as seriously as possible and carry out a thorough risk assessment in relation to each individual. And during the period, there were 215 missing persons involving 106 individuals, and that is a 43% increase from the previous year. So I know that will cause some concern in relation to some of the impact that that might have. Each of our missing people takes about 14 hours to be recovered, and I'm glad to say that all individuals in this reporting period were traced, safe and well. There have been some new reporting specifications and rules applied by our National Missing Persons Unit, which does indicate or contribute to some of those increases within those statistics. About a third of our missing persons within Inverclyde are care experienced young people. In relation to domestic abuse, tackling domestic abuse is a high priority for Renfrewshire and Inverclyde Division, and indeed as it is nationally. And although domestic abuse is often underreported, we are dedicated to providing that, that professional, sensitive response and trying to reach out to as many as we can who are impacted by these offences. Inverclyde saw a 19% rise in domestic abuse incidents over the past year, totalling over 600 cases. So a multi-agency approach is vital for victim safeguarding and indeed for offender accountability. And they are supported by frameworks which you'll be well aware of in relation to the MATAC and MARAC partnerships and the disclosure scheme for domestic distance. And that distance scheme received 279 applications, which resulted in 190 disclosures. And again, for context, each one of those disclosures has the opportunity then to increase reporting for victims. It provides them that opportunity and voice through contact with either ourselves or third-party agencies. In relation to acquisitive crime, Inverclyde experienced a decrease in recorded crimes of dishonesty, totalling just over 1,000, while the national crime rate increased. The detection rate for acquisitive crime improved, surpassing the national average again. Housebreaking crimes decreased with an improved detection rate of 20%. Fraud crimes have also declined, although they are sometimes complex in relation to the threat that they pose, particularly in the online sphere. There was a notable rise in theft by shoplifting. I'm sure as you will be aware, continuing trend and repeat offending is a significant issue. 84 individuals being charged with 2 or more crimes within the Inverclyde area. So efforts to combat this retail crime include working with local businesses and clearly our other partners, and implementing measures like exclusion zones and public awareness sessions on crime prevention. Moving on to road safety. Inverclyde recorded 42 road traffic casualties during the reporting period, an increase of 1 from the previous year with 1 fatal collision. Police Scotland is focused on reducing road casualties through enforcement and education, supported by our road policing colleagues and various safety campaigns, including Operation Drive Insured and the festive Drink, Drug, Drive campaign. A total of 728 road traffic offences were recorded, which is a slight decrease from the previous year, while national offences increased by 3%. There were significant rises in detected speeding offences, dangerous driving offences and mobile phone offences. The detection rate for road traffic offences in Inverclyde has improved again and currently sits at 85%. That includes my report. I'm quite happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chief Superintendent. Colleagues, any questions? Councillor.
Thank you, Convener. Thank you, Chief Superintendent Fraser, for a very extensive report. I was just going back to a point we made last time we were here regarding violent crime being on the increase. It's gone from 8.9% to 7.8%, which is still a number which we all think is far too high. It's been highlighted in this report that obviously this is now really centred around areas of deprivation. And this time we're looking for reassurances from the police that this matter is actually now a priority. And maybe some sort of action plan that we're looking at to stop these figures and get them well into the reverse, into a level that people in Inverclyde can feel safe, and certainly get the perception that people in Inverclyde are feeling safe to be in the area. There's a lot of good work that's been done to promote the area when we see figures so high. And just secondly, convening maybe through yourself, if possible, to see if we can maybe consider engaging with the Scottish Government to see if the Justice Minister would come down and speak to us regarding this and see what action we can take in to make the people feel safe. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a priority of ours and always has been in the Clyde. The figures that we are looking at here totals, I think, to around 49 crimes or thereabouts is what we're talking about here, which is high for accepted for an area like this, which is not huge in terms of its geographical area. A lot of our crimes and offences of violence take place within the home setting, where our opportunities for prevention are challenging. And these are the opportunities that we need to try and get ahead of. And it's really a lot in terms of our school outreach programmes, our tackling knife crime, tackling weapon carrying, and a lot of these antisocial type behaviour opportunities that we might have at a younger age. What we have done, what we continue to do, is look to try and project and programme when we're going to see those spikes, and that's where our analysts and who compile these reports really come into their own, and we have opportunities to try and get ahead of the game, put those you spoke about, those high visibility policing patrols in place, free up some of our resources from other jobs that they might be doing at the time, and really look at those trends around particular individuals, particular addresses, because sometimes it's not just individuals. Addresses, as you know, can draw in people from other areas if they're used for any kind of drug dealing or drug taking or whatever that might look like. So there's lots of opportunities for us within there with partners to try and get ahead of that, and it absolutely is a priority. And as I say, our analysts work hard to try and give us that heads up so that we know exactly where we're going and we can make those preventions and put those in place. In terms of the public confidence, I'm actually quite reassured with the 83, the numbers of people that felt safe within their area. I'm going to say, yeah, while it was slightly lower than the national figure, I still think we're doing well in that regard. So I think what we can do from our side of things is try and publicise and help publicise the positives in relation to Inverclyde, and actually some of these decreases that we've seen in terms of crime for the public reassurance side of things, and certainly focus our attention on those areas that we spoke about in terms of the social deprivation, but particularly those, and it is one or two problematic areas while we're talking about postcodes. It can really come down to addresses and individuals, and make sure that we've got on top of them. Anything else for the crime in a local context, Steve?
No, just to say that local violence is a priority for us. It has been certainly since I came here. There's been a lot of good work, as the Commander said, in local schools, particularly amongst young people. No nice better life initiatives we delivered over last year. Schools also have a protocol that if we receive information, a child may be carrying a weapon, we can intervene before something actually happens. The child search the school, the bag search the school, will cover that weapon. So don't wait till violence actually happens, we can proactively try and stop it before it does. And I think probably, from a personal point of view, I would like, just for public reassurance, I would like to probably get more out on social media about the work we are doing. We do get a lot of good results, we get a lot of weapons off the streets, and we do solve a lot of violent crime. And I think it's something that probably locally I could pick up on more and get out on social media about the good work we're doing. Certainly, the overall average, but I'm also very encouraged by our detection rates, 70%. So almost 2/3 of violent crimes within Inverclyde are solved if someone's done before the courts for it. And that's very encouraging for me, but there's still work to be done. I certainly agree with you.
Are you okay with that, or do you want us?
Yeah, thank you. Can get, yeah, I agree with Chief Inspector. Can get more public awareness and publicising the campaign. For example, maybe an offensive weapon campaign or whatever, and getting out there into the public, letting them know it's taking place, letting them know the figures, letting them know your detection rates or whatever. Or even is what I remember having recovered weapons in the past, let people see them, let people see the things getting done. I think that'd be a great move forward. Thanks.
Colleagues, there was a request from a council there that I should invite the Justice Minister. I wonder, what are your views on that?
Would it achieve anything by inviting a minister here? Would it really achieve? Would the minister have the time to address it? Or should we go along the line that we are by putting it through the police representatives?
Any other views? Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a bit, if we don't ask and we don't request, then if we want the extra resources, then we have to let them highlight that that's what we want, and what better place to ask and go high and expect somebody to come down here and know that they are aware of it and they want to support it. I certainly don't see any negativity in that.
Now you've attracted my attention with the two words, extra resources. I think that would be a very good reason for inviting the Minister. Councillor Clark, did you want to contribute?
I was just going to have a couple of questions to ask you just on the back of the side. It would also be ideal to show the Greenock Police Station and the extent the Greenock Police Station's in, so I'm sure my officer colleagues will agree, and to see the disrepair the Greenock Station would be in, might focus minds at different places to try and, because everybody's shouting out for resources to get their station done. I think we all know that the Greenock Station's a bit of a carbuncle, and it really needs done, and we've been talking about it now for about 2 years. So maybe by getting the Justice Minister down and having it in the Greenock Police Station, it might focus his things a bit, especially if that's on the agenda as well.
Thank you for that, colleagues. Let me carry on and have a word offline with my senior colleagues, okay, and we will have a discussion about that. Thank you for proposing it. Councillor Falk,
right, thank you. I mean, overall, it looks like a good report, but obviously, the thing that stands out most, hopefully the final thing, but also domestic abuse stands out. Now, I recognise what you say, Chief Superintendent, that an awful lot of these are within the house, so it's very hard to, and it's not just a policing problem, it's a society problem, so I understand that, but on a police scrutiny committee and having a nearly 20% up increase, you'd expect a question regarding domestic abuse and what we can do or what the committee can do, what you can do with your partners, and I know you have the up and on you can do this. It just stands out, especially after a lockdown, which you would have expected a large increase during the lockdown period. It seems it stands out as we've got a big issue within like that we're seeing nearly a 20% increase.
Yeah, I agree. It does stand out, and the fact that a lot of these offences are behind closed doors doesn't make a difference to us in terms of our focus and our opportunities to impact on the lives of victims and their families and children as well, who are mostly exposed to this kind of behaviour within the home. What I would say about the rise, as I mentioned earlier, is to every victim who approaches us, we will look for opportunities for corroboration in ex-partners. We will look to our partners within social work, to our third sector partners, to try and look for those detection opportunities and gain the confidence of the victim and gain the confidence of people who haven't yet come forward. With the domestic abuse disclosure scheme, as we have heard, we have 190 disclosures. So with each of those contacts, we are making contact with a potential victim who maybe hasn't yet reported to us. So we are proactively going into that space to say, we have a duty now to let you know about the individual you're currently with And that will often lead to a disclosure. And again, every disclosure leads to opportunities for us to look for corroboration. And so with every additional bit proactivity that we do in the domestic abuse arena, has the opportunity to uncover another offence and detection. And that's all positive for us. Because of the issues around things going on behind closed doors and the minimum, corroboration and witnesses, issues around witnesses, and that helps us in a huge way, and it helps the victims. And by doing so, it increases that public confidence piece and the victim confidence in reporting to us. So, and I'm not going to use the phrase like victims of our own success here, but that's the more people that report to us and the more people we find, that's an opportunity to disrupt that behaviour within the home. And so, yeah, while it's 19% rise is not great, because we would really rather we didn't see domestic abuse at all. I'm feeling hopeful that actually means that we are finding victims that wouldn't previously have come forward.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
happy with that?
No, thanks very much, Chief Superintendent.
I'll take Councillor Brennan, please.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Really, my comment was just to support Councillor Hellier's request and say that I think that could, I know Councillor Credder said what difference would it make a minister coming, but hopefully a government minister coming would make, should make a fair amount of difference to listening to our concerns as the Police and Fire Scrutiny Panel, and getting the chance to see the great work that the police are doing, as well as some of our requests for additional support and a real focus on community safety here in Inverclyde. So it was just to back up Councillor Hellier's request. Yeah.
Thank you very much. No, I wouldn't want it to be seen in any way a complaint that we're asking for. It is for assistance. Councillor Crowther?
Thank you, Convener. While I welcome the seizure of a couple of trail bikes locally, the issue of quad bikes and trail bikes has been raised with many councillors. I've also been advised that there's a specialist group based in Glasgow that deals specifically with trail bikes and quad bikes. I was wondering if their remit covers areas such as Inverclyde, or whether they're Glasgow based only. If it covers other areas, is there any criteria that would be laid down whereby we could actually have them visiting this area?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what that unit is. I do know historically Glasgow had some trail bikes funded at one point. I don't know if that's the unit that you're referring to. I'm not familiar, but we'll certainly find that out. But from our side of the business, yeah, we do certainly understand that's a concern for landowners, for for people walking dogs, for public parks, etc. And it can divide opinion. We've had a few seizures over the course of the last few months, which yeah, there's a bit of a divide in public opinion about that, but certainly in terms of the antisocial aspect to it, there's no doubt that it causes damage, it's noise, it's a safety issue when it comes to pedestrians and to the actual users of the bike themselves. So locally I'll hand over to David for the action that we've taken to date, but I will probably need to come back to you in relation to the national aspect of that you're going through.
Yeah, so quad bikes do have been an issue for us. We have seized, as you said, a couple of bikes in recent months, but a quad bike seized on the 15th of March, and the dirt bike seized just only last week. We've also put a lot on social media as well, encouraging people who are using these bikes to do it responsibly and not in the areas that they are. You'll be aware of One Hill Golf Course. There's some serious issues with the quad bikes. Thousands of pounds worth of damage across the region. In fact, I think they actually had to shut the course for a period of time until they got it repaired. It's just not acceptable, but having said that, very difficult to combat. We have ran 3 action plans since Christmas specifically to combat quad bikes. It's difficult to determine when they're going to ride the quad bikes, so from using data from an analyst, we'll try and predict the day they're going to be out and about, and we'll have an action plan on that night. We have had limited success with that, however. Initially, we applied to the drones unit in Glasgow to ask if they could come down with their drone equipment. We had limited success with that. The drones weren't able to follow the bikes as they seen them. However, we have it buy-in twice now from the helicopter based in Glasgow, and it's been in the area for 2 of the action plans. But again, it's just having the bikes out at the right time as we run in the action plan. We've also got buy-in as well from road policing who've assisted us in order to pursue these bikes. But it is an ongoing problem. We are aware of it, and we do everything we can to try and combat it. We plan to run future action plans as the year goes on as well, to see if we can seize more bikes.
I think you've
That's
done
lovely,
very
thank you.
well to confiscate 2 of them. I don't know that they're here and they're gone. I don't know how you do it.
Very, very difficult.
They're very difficult, yeah.
It is a challenge. We probably would expect to see, an increase in, as the weather, as the lighter nights and the weather gets a little bit better. So certainly do what we can and just encourage that reporting locally as well, so that we can try and be as focused as we can. Because as David has said, we can run several action plans and not really get anything out of it. And, so we want to try and be as efficient as we possibly can and get a result for the community.
I presume, Chief Inspector, you're not allowed to run them down, are you?
No, unfortunately not, and that's one of the restrictions we have, is very strict guidelines when it comes to pursuing these vehicles, and quite often as well, these vehicles are being driven by children, so you have to be very careful how you try to combat them, because we don't want a kid, the last thing we want is a kid coming off one of these things, whilst trying to escape the police and serious hurt themselves. That would not be good at all. A very difficult issue, but we are aware of it, and we are doing what we can to combat it.
Thanks for that. Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions both with you. I support the request of my colleague Councillor Heller. I think it'd be a good opportunity to have the Minister down and be able to push for more resources for Inverclyde.
Thank you.
So my question is, Chief Superintendent, first up, body-worn cameras. I've read with some interest that Scotland is finally rolling out body-worn cameras. I think the last force in the UK, as I understand, to do so. So my question is, when can we expect the cameras to be rolled out in the Berkshire and Inverclyde division?
So we're not in the programme this year, but we will be getting it into next year. So you'll see obviously the new buildings, but they are now nationally, they're out and about and being very positively received, both from officers and from the public, and we really hope that this has the impact that we're looking for in terms of that, opportunities for evidence, reduction in complaints, but protecting the officers and the public themselves. So you're right, we're one of the last to get on board as part of our digitally enabled policing programme. So our chief at the moment is hugely forward thinking in that space, which will be both efficient and beneficial to us operating on the front line. So unfortunately we are not first. We are further down the line, and it'll be into next year before we get them here. If there's any movement to that programme based on how they're rolling out nationally, I'll certainly update, but that is the current picture for most of the West policing areas. We're the most populated, not just in terms of people, but in terms of police officers as well. So it's a slightly bigger programme for us, but it will come, it is scheduled, and it will be next year.
Okay, thanks for that. So moving on to police station, I'm sure you'll have seen the Telegraph article last month on the backlog of the repairs bill. When the bill, I think the Telegraph said that there's over £500,000 in repairs to the building, either being made or being to be made, and it highlighted in the space of 1 year the repairs cost soars from 27,000 in 23-24 to 86,000 in 24-25. And the Telegraph was saying that in the data that they got from Police Scotland through a Freedom of Information request, which was correct as of December last year, it showed there was more than 50 faults yet to be fixed, with an estimated repair cost of 36,000. These included requests for a specialist investigation reports of a smell coming from toilets, a complaint about a broken pipe coming out of the building, which was leaking so badly that cars had to be moved, a repair that was logged in September of last year, which was still outstanding in December of last year, related to a broken flusher in a cell toilet, It stated in repair log, the cell was closed due to this issue. Another entry stated that the fire exit leading to the front of the building has had birds nesting in it and that a long-term and added that cleaning was needed to remove the substantial amount of bird waste. Now, among one of the costless repairs was 4,300 requests to address an issue with the air conditioning unit, which was blowing out cold air and bits of ice. Another request included 6,200 repair, which was needed for one of the station's electronic gates, and a demand for 2,373,000 for an asbestos survey. Now, reading this, it sounds like entirely unacceptable conditions that your officers are having to put up with in this station. And in fact, former well-respected Air Commander for Inverclyde, Debbie Riley, had said that this represents gross mismanagement by the Police Scotland Estates Department. And I've got to admit, I agree with Debbie on this one. It does look like gross mismanagement. So quite frankly, who in your Estates Department is being held responsible for this gross neglect?
So, yeah, there's obviously a number of points that you've raised there in relation to the office, and a number of them have been repaired and wouldn't be out with what is expected of a building that size and that age. However, there's far more within that is more worrying, and hence the reason Greenock is that priority in terms of the estate. I think there was an estates meeting trying to be arranged imminently for down here, but as I've said before, we are the custody provision in Greenock and trying to maintain that provision in a suitable location and building to service the police officers is preventing us from moving quicker from a conventional policing perspective. The building has undergone a number of repairs, and I'm more than happy to invite anybody over to have a look and see what that currently looks like, because it is significantly better. And I do appreciate that some of them are temporary or patch repairs or whatever you want to term them. They're short term, and in the long term, we're certainly looking to relocate, whether that's into a newly built custody suite or whether that's into an existing building. But it's Greenock, along with two other offices within the force, are sitting at that priority with the funding available. And again, she's quite clear on estates and the estate that we inherited as Police Scotland from the number of legacy forces. It needs to be brought up to speed, and there has been some underinvestment over the years, and that's accepted and well documented up to this point. But we're in a position now to be able to address it, and estates are undergoing that transformation in terms of their staffing levels and the number of people that they've got to be able to address the transformation that's required, rather than just this repair structure that we've been in. So I'm hoping that we'll get positive news. And as I said before, we're not moving tomorrow, we're not moving next week, but we have it in a place where actually I'm comfortable for any one of you to come over and have a look at it in terms of the condition in which the officers are operating in, until such time as we can get that permanent solution. And what I will say is the states have it as a priority, and the funding is there, and they will certainly be looking to present us with some kind of programme soon. Can't say when that will be, because as I say, we're tied into custody and a solution for them as well. But we will, the way it is just now, I think, is acceptable to the officers and the way they're working, and those repairs that you've mentioned, majority of them have been to get it to the state where I'm comfortable with the position that we're in, and hopefully a solution will be found soon for a more permanent move.
Okay, thanks for that. As well as you mentioned about the kind of future of the station, obviously last year now, it's been a year ago since we had the Estates Department here, where we were questioning them, and back then I made a request for the options appraisal, to be published. We've yet to see any publication of that document. I was wondering if that was something you could raise with your Estates Department.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's something that should be addressed to the Estates Department.
Yeah, I mean, they are the owners of the programme of work. However, It is obviously our division and our office and offices. It's not just Greenock. So I do appreciate and I'm grateful for everybody's patience in that space, because having worked here before, I do know it was on the agenda 5 years ago as well. So, but what I can say is that we're getting closer and closer by the day, and actually we have some really strong and positive direction in relation to taking this forward, and I'm certainly hoping for a solution soon.
Thanks, sir.
Okay with that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Question. I don't see any questions on the screen and none in the room. Just one comment from me on the road traffic offences. I see that the resulted focus on key issues resulted in an increase of nearly 81% in detected speeding offences. My constituents in Upper Port Glasgow and Kilmacombe will be delighted about that figure, because they're on to me all the time about speeding in the housing schemes and in the main roads of Kilmacombe. So thank you very much for that. We move on to agenda item number 4, new business. Local police and the fire and scrutiny panel update report.
Thanks very much, Convener. This is just a standard report that comes from the police authorities board meetings. I'm not going to go through everything that's in the board meeting. It gives you an update of the discussions that have been taking place at the national level for the boards and also within the fire service. The point I'd like to take to your attention is 6.1, the draft fire service, fire rescue service draft strategy. On behalf of the convener and the deputy convener, we have completed our draft strategy return, which has been agreed in principle with the convener and the deputy convener, and that to be selected in Monday. So happy to get any questions on it.
Kevin.
Thank you, Ken. I just thank Inverclyde Council for what looks like a very comprehensive response to our consultation for the new draft strategy 25 to 28. And also take the opportunity to give you early notice of a couple of other likely consultations that the fire service will be rolling out this year. I'm aware and conscious that may cause some consultation fatigue amongst the public and stakeholders, but they arguably may be more relevant to Inverclyde than the one that's already been completed. So that relates to our service delivery review programme, which is likely to be commenced in June, and the local fire plan for Inverclyde, which is likely to commence in the autumn of this year. So they are a bit more bespoke, specifically to Inverclyde perhaps, and again we would welcome such a response as we've received on this occasion. Thank you.
I think we look forward to that. Any other comments or questions? No? Well, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. That concludes today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.